Korin slowly opens his eyes, the morning sun casting light through the small window of his simple room. He sits up, rubbing his eyes, noticing the worn-down furniture and the faint sound of bustling villagers outside. Catching his reflection in the cracked mirror, his eyes widen as unfamiliar memories start flooding his mind. Korin steps closer to the window, overlooking a vast medieval city, realizing something feels oddly real and different. Heart pounding, he mutters in disbelief, piecing things together. He's inside the game he spent years mastering. Korin recalls 3 years ago, the moment he first possessed a minor game character, uncertain of his new reality. The game was Heroic Legend of Arhan, a world filled with danger, legendary quests, and endless catastrophic events. He vividly remembers the blood-red sky as powerful monsters ravaged the land, creating chaos at every turn. The game's storyline spiraled into disaster, threatening even the survival of the world itself as Korin helplessly watched. Facing unstoppable hordes of the undead, Korin knows the scale of this world's conflicts is far beyond ordinary. Korin, however, reassures himself, knowing the main character, Sihu, always handled the toughest situations effortlessly. After all, Korin's role was just an NPC, an insignificant villager appearing in the first tutorial mission. He quietly observes the lively streets, blending in with the crowd as Sihu should soon appear nearby. With confidence, Korin hums to himself, hoping everything will follow the familiar game progression. His gaze finally lands on a dark figure seated ahead. Recognizing him instantly, Korin's excitement turns to doubt. Something feels off. Korin approaches Sihu cautiously, recognizing him as the game's destined protagonist, but something about his demeanor feels unsettling. Sihu's dark aura crackles as he declares he'll live for his own survival, not following the usual scripted events. Before Korin can react, Sihu activates a skill with alarming efficiency, his focus unwavering as he trains relentlessly. Korin scrambles to match his pace, grabbing Sihu's hand in desperation, eager not to be left behind. Despite his confidence, Korin realizes Sihu, like him, is a player possessing a character altering the world's natural flow. The difference between them becomes clear. Sihu holds a unique privilege, the ability to access a stat window unavailable to Korin. Korin watches as Sihu fumbles through unfamiliar stats, realizing he lacks experience playing this world's game. Determined to balance the scales, Korin steps in, offering knowledge from every path, event, and scenario he mastered. Korin boasts he knows the game inside out, reassuring Sihu that having him around is the ultimate advantage. With confidence restored, Korin feels he can steer the story back on track, ensuring their survival through his expertise. Their conversation is interrupted by a sudden monstrous roar echoing from the shadows, an early boss far ahead of schedule. Korin's eyes widen in horror, realizing the encounter shouldn't occur until much later, signaling the timeline is already shifting. The beast lunges, chains binding its limbs, crackling with dark energy, threatening to drag Korin into battle unprepared. Sihu steps forward, drawing his weapon swiftly, his movement seamless as if he had fought this battle countless times. As Korin catches his breath, he realizes that the unnatural disruptions in the game could lead to consequences beyond their understanding. Korin and Sihu fight in sync, cutting down enemies with ease, their teamwork shaping into a formidable force. As victory draws closer, Korin believes that saving the world is within their grasp if they continue at this pace. Watching the sunset, Korin imagines a future where they can return to their real lives after finishing the game. Sihu casually hands Korin a health potion, hinting at how even the simplest actions feel more important in this world. Sitting by the fire, Korin reflects on how deeply immersed he's become in a reality once limited to his screen. Korin recalls how the game combined thrilling battles with dating simulation elements, making the world more engaging. Sihu, uninterested in romance or forming bonds, focused solely on strengthening their male-dominated party. Korin questions why all the female characters kept dying or leaving behind nothing but a band of men. The realization that story elements were diverging begins to sink in, with key female characters mysteriously disappearing. Korin remembers the first major sign, when the granddaughter of the Sword Emperor perished unexpectedly before her introduction. As Korin investigates further, he uncovers dark rumors of disappearances and unsolved murders, straying from the game's original path. The carefully crafted balance of the game begins to unravel, pointing to an unsettling truth about Sihu's influence. Korin starts noticing changes in Sihu's demeanor, his actions more calculated, his eyes sharper than any player he knew. The shift in Sihu's personality hints at something deeper, making Korin question if he's ever truly known his companion. Korin realizes too late, he should have suspected Sihu's true nature long before the first strange incident occurred. Mariette Donaleff, a key heroine in the game, with someone Korin and Sihu never encountered during their journey. Despite her absence, her legendary staff appears in Sihu's inventory, raising unsettling questions Korin can't ignore. Korin walks through the inventory chamber, noticing more items belonging to other heroines who mysteriously disappeared. The pattern becomes clear. Every missing heroine left behind a powerful relic that somehow ended up in Sihu's possession. The sight of an unfamiliar blade chills Korin. Each piece feels like a piece of a puzzle he wishes he never found. Korin realizes these relics belong to every heroine who should have played a major role in the game's story. The unsettling truth emerges. Each of their disappearances coincided with Sihu's increasing power and influence. As Korin steps forward, a chained figure in crimson light catches his eye. It's Mariette Dunalev, barely conscious. Korin's heart races as he realizes she's not gone, just imprisoned. The reality of what's happening finally sinks in. Standing frozen, Korin mutters in disbelief. If Mariette is here, what happened to the other heroines they couldn't find? Korin's thoughts are interrupted by Sihu's voice as he casually steps out of the shadows, unfazed by the discovery. Sihu meets Korin's confused gaze with calm indifference, brushing off Mariette's state as if it holds no significance. Korin demands an explanation, recalling Sihu's previous claim that Mariette was a demon and not worth saving. Sihu smirks, explaining how he efficiently repurposed the heroine's powers to strengthen himself through forbidden means. Korin clenches his fists, feeling the weight of the truth. Sihu's methods weren't driven by necessity, but by convenience and ambition. Korin watches as Sihu drinks a potion infused with dark energy, unbothered by its unnatural properties or the consequences. Frustrated, Korin confronts him, demanding to understand why he resorted to such extreme methods without hesitation. Sihu shrugs off the concern, explaining how survival requires bending the rules even if it means cutting corners. Clenching his fists, Korin wonders why he's the only one who feels uneasy about Sihu's actions and choices. Sihu brushes it off, seeing Korin's frustration as unnecessary. To him, every action is justified by efficiency and progress. Korin's frustration grows as he accuses Sihu of sacrificing too many innocents, leaving trails of destruction behind him. Sihu retorts, claiming efficiency over morality, unwilling to slow down or spare those deemed unnecessary for his goals. Korin begins to realize Sihu's confidence wasn't beginner's luck. He's been hiding his experience and skills all along. For the first time, Korin feels like he never really knew Sihu, sensing something inhuman about his methods. As Korin demands answers, Sihu's casual demeanor shifts, leaving Korin wondering just how many lives Sihu has taken. Korin's heart races as he watches Sihu's body language, feeling that his companion is far from human in nature. Gripping Sihu's collar, Korin yells in frustration, accusing him of becoming the very monster they were meant to fight. Sihu smirks coldly, reminding Korin that every life he took was to prevent greater catastrophes from unfolding. Korin refuses to accept it, recalling that the ones he killed were evil, unlike the heroines Sihu imprisoned. As their confrontation intensifies, Korin questions whether Sihu is even capable of distinguishing friend from foe anymore. Korin's breath catches as Sihu's aura darkens, eyes glowing ominously while dark energy crackles around him. A monstrous figure looms behind Sihu, symbolizing the sheer power he's absorbed from forbidden practices. Korin stares in disbelief, realizing Sihu's descent into madness isn't stopping. He's fully embracing the darkness. Sihu's gaze sharpens, as if something inside him snaps, releasing a chilling, predatory aura aimed at Korin. With a sudden burst of force, Sihu strikes, sending Korin crashing against the wall, blood trickling from his forehead. Korin wipes the blood from his eyes, struggling to make sense of Sihu's words as he approaches slowly. Sihu's voice softens, almost affectionate, as he claims everything he's done has been for Korin's sake. Korin steps back uneasily, sensing an unsettling obsession radiating from Sihu's intense gaze. Sihu's words grow more erratic, insisting Korin should rely solely on him and no one else in this world. As Korin's confusion deepens, he questions what Sihu has become. This wasn't the hero he remembered. Sihu's aura flares, surrounding the room in violet flames as he proclaims that Korin is the only person he truly loves. Korin's heart races as Sihu confesses, his eyes filled with dangerous conviction and unwavering focus. The weight of the realization crushes Korin. Sihu's actions weren't driven by power alone, but by a twisted attachment. As Sihu lunges, Korin barely dodges, sensing that this confrontation isn't just about survival, it's personal. Stumbling away, Korin realizes the line between ally and enemy has completely blurred, and Sihu has crossed it. Korin gasps as dark chains wrap around him, Sihu's power physically restraining him in an unbreakable hold. Sihu steps closer, his voice cold yet possessive, declaring that Korin will remain trapped by his side forever. Despite Korin struggling, Sihu's magic tightens, sealing him in a suffocating embrace of purple flames. Sihu's eyes soften as he insists Korin is the only real thing in this fabricated world of NPCs. Korin's panic surges, realizing the extent of Sihu's obsession, as his vision blurs from the crushing weight. Sihu's expression darkens further, calmly assuring Korin that everything will fall into place once the fight ends. Purple energy crackles as Sihu begins reshaping the world around them, twisting reality to fit his desires. Korin's surroundings glitch unnaturally, flickering between the game's stages as the lines of reality blur. In the distance, Korin notices the final dungeon activating, a part of the game that should never have appeared yet. As Korin's heart races, he senses the endgame approaching far earlier than expected, driven by Sihu's growing instability. The game's interface flashes, signaling the last stage has opened, a phase neither of them was prepared for. Korin collapses to his knees, struggling to breathe as he questions whether he can stop Sihu anymore. Sihu turns, smiling gently as the world around them shatters, promising that they'll stay together forever. Korin's eyes flicker as he contemplates the truth. Sihu has no intention of letting the game end naturally. A message appears in front of him. Player has died. Challenge failed. Reality fades as Korin's body falls limp. The battlefield lay silent, Korin's weapon slipping from his grasp as he stared at the sky in disbelief. Defeat felt surreal. As the world crumbled around him, Korin's final thought echoed. Did Sihu actually lose, or was this part of his plan? Sunlight filtered through tattered curtains, Korin's eyes snapping open as he gasped for air. The familiar ceiling left him disoriented. Sitting up abruptly, Korin clutched his chest, feeling his heartbeat race. Memories of the battle flooded his mind like a nightmare. Walking to the window, Korin gazed at the peaceful city below. Time had reversed. He had regressed to the very beginning. Korin's eyes narrowed as he gazed at the sunlight filtering through the window. 3 years ago, everything started on this day. He clenched his fists tightly, memories resurfacing. The weight of his decision felt heavier now that he had another chance. Determination burned in his heart as he whispered the thought that haunted him. He had to kill Park Sihu. Sitting upright, Korin's resolve solidified. Park Sihu wasn't just an obstacle. To survive, Korin needed to eliminate the player himself. A flood swept through the village, leaving destruction in its path as the river surged uncontrollably over the broken dam. Beneath the surface, monstrous creatures stirred, drawn to the chaos caused by the overwhelming force of the rushing water. Korinlok watched in awe, realizing this wasn't just a natural disaster, but something far more sinister taking shape. Park Siho's laughter echoed louder than the roar of the flood, his excitement strangely out of place amidst the destruction. Korin couldn't understand why Siho found this entertaining, but something about his expression felt unsettling and out of place. Korin knew that with a few more kills he could reach the strength necessary to challenge Park Siho directly. The looming goal of 100,000 points felt closer, but the thought of surpassing Siho brought a strange unease. Korin reminded himself that at this stage, Siho was no more than a student just like him, ordinary yet dangerous. The academy was a crucible, and Korin knew the real power Siho held would grow the moment classes began. Rushing through the woods, Korin trained relentlessly, determined to narrow the gap between him and Siho before the entrance exam. Korin gathered rare mushrooms near the academy, hoping they would aid in crafting something to boost his stats. As his blade sliced cleanly through the stalks, Korin sensed an opportunity. The academy's tutorial quest had begun. This was Korin's only chance to catch Siho off guard, knowing the early stages could tilt the balance. The time to strike was now, before Siho became too strong to challenge head-on. Korin's grip tightened on his sword. A notification flickered. The tutorial quest awaited him under the moonlit sky, marking the start of everything to come. Leon and Laura stepped back from the fallen creature, impressed by Korin's efficiency in dealing with the threat. Korin humbly accepted the praise, but his mind was already drifting to the next task, awaiting them under the moonlight. A villager rushed toward them, lantern in hand, relieved to report the repairs were finally completed after the attack. As the group prepared to leave, fatigue washed over Korin, yearning for the comfort of rest after a long night. A sudden, piercing scream echoed through the dark, freezing the group in place as danger returned unexpectedly. From the shadows, a massive claw tore through the air, narrowly missing Leon as he swiftly pulled Laura to safety. Korin's blade flashed instinctively, intercepting the strike, but the force behind it was unlike anything he had faced before. A werewolf, hulking and feral, emerged from the tree line, glowing red eyes fixed on the group like prey. Korin's heart pounded as Leon shouted for them to scatter, recognizing the immediate threat the creature posed. Laura took position behind Korin, readying her blade as the werewolf lunged, forcing Corin into a defensive stance. The werewolf roared, its menacing presence overwhelming as Corin braced for the inevitable clash of strength and speed. Corin had rushed to the scene the moment trouble began but regretted not arriving earlier to prepare properly. As the beast charged, Corin realized if he had been faster, he might have prevented the deaths of those nearby. The werewolf's claws struck hard, knocking Corin back as Leon and Laura desperately tried to hold their ground. A voice called out from behind them, summoning Corin to regroup while Leon bought them some precious seconds. Leon urged Corin to leave, but he hesitated, unwilling to abandon his comrades to face the werewolf alone. The werewolf loomed, radiating a chilling aura as Corin's instincts screamed at him to run, but he stood firm. As Leon and Laura prepared for another clash, Corin questioned if Park Siho was truly destined to save this world. If Siho wasn't the hero, Corin feared the consequences, wondering if he too was merely a possessed pawn. The werewolf's size became clearer under the moonlight, its hulking figure threatening to crush them with one swift strike. The beast roared, shaking the ground, as Leon yelled for Corin to duck just before the werewolf charged forward. Laura lunged, intercepting the attack with her blade, sparks flying as their weapons clashed under the pale moonlight. Corin watched, heart racing, as the werewolf's movements grew faster, its focus fixed entirely on their small group. Leon retaliated, but the creature's strength overwhelmed him, forcing Corin to consider stepping in despite the risk. The line between hero and enemy blurred in Corin's mind, unsure if the real threat was the beast or Siho. Just as the werewolf's claw neared Leon, a sword intercepted it mid-strike, halting the attack with surprising force. Alicia Arden stepped forward, her blade glowing faintly, a calm yet commanding presence exuding confidence and power. Corin recognized her immediately. Alicia, the influential daughter of the Arden family, wielding one of the 6 king swords. Her arrival shifted the tide, prompting the werewolf to retreat slightly, sensing the danger posed by her presence. Alicia signaled for them to stand back, her stance firm as she prepared to handle the werewolf alone. Corin hesitated, feeling the weight of the moment as Alicia Arden's death flag loomed ominously in the unfolding event. Even during the tutorial, rare Easter eggs could trigger deadly scenarios, something Corin knew he couldn't afford to overlook. Alicia's life was at risk, and Corin feared this would lead to an unavoidable chain of dangerous consequences. He tightened his grip, determined not to let fate play out the same way it had in the original storyline. Corin's suspicions about Siho grew. If anyone was behind this event, it had to be him. Alicia's eyes widened as Corin's sudden interference disrupted her attack, leaving her vulnerable against the werewolf. Corin offered a weak excuse, blaming nervousness as the werewolf's growl echoed louder, signaling the battle had only begun. The werewolf lunged, forcing Alicia to recover quickly as Corin stepped back, trying to assess the situation from afar. Tension hung in the air, but Corin couldn't afford to lose focus now with Alicia's survival on the line. The beast roared again, ready to strike as Corin began to formulate his next move carefully. Alicia parried the werewolf's claw, sparks flying as Corin analyzed the battle, searching for any openings to exploit. If Alicia died here, the powerful weapon oracle would fall into Siho's hands, an outcome Corin had to prevent. Corin recalled that this event tied directly to the Arden family's future, altering the entire course of the academy. Alicia, despite her strength, was visibly strained. Corin knew he had to act before it was too late. With a deep breath, Alicia refocused, steadying her nerves as Corin prepared to intervene at the critical moment. Alicia's footwork shifted, her precise movements reflecting years of training as she prepared to counter the werewolf's charge. The battlefield illuminated under her presence, her aura strong enough to keep the werewolf cautious, but danger still loomed. Corin watched carefully, knowing that if this battle stretched any longer, the death flag could trigger at any moment. Park Siho, hidden in the shadows, observed with unsettling calm, his eyes glowing with the same intensity as the beast's. Corin tightened his grip, refusing to let Siho's interference shift the course of the battle into tragedy. Siho's blade flared with dark energy as he unleashed a sudden attack, forcing Alicia to block mid-strike. Sparks flew as their weapons clashed, the force pushing her backward as Siho's presence grew more threatening. Alicia's eyes narrowed, realizing that Corin's suspicions were correct. Siho's involvement wasn't accidental after all. The werewolf lunged forward, taking advantage of the brief distraction, its claws narrowly missing Alicia's side. Corin stepped in, driving his blade between the werewolf and Alicia, determined to stop Siho's plan from advancing. The werewolf howled in agony as Corin's strike landed, but the real threat wasn't over. Siho's eyes glinted with intent. With a final burst of energy, Siho struck the beast's core, delivering the killing blow and claiming the spoils. Alicia collapsed from exhaustion, her grip loosening as Korin knelt by her side, frustration evident on his face. Siho raised the weapon known as Odachi, the legendary sword Korin had tried desperately to keep out of his hands. As Siho smiled victoriously, Korin realized that this was only the beginning. Keeping pace with him would now be harder than ever. Park Siho admired the gear he had just claimed, noting it required a rare skill to unlock its full potential. Shrugging off the thought, he grinned, knowing the opportunity to use it would come sooner than expected. His gaze shifted downward, eyes glinting with dangerous intent as he considered the NPCs around him as mere experience points. Without hesitation, Siho drew his blade, his predatory instinct intensifying as the thought crossed his mind. From the shadows, Korin narrowed his eyes, sensing that Siho's actions were heading down a dangerous path once more. As Siho's blade glowed ominously, flames erupted around him, scorching the ground beneath his feet. Korin flinched, shielding his eyes as Siho's power surged unnaturally, far stronger than it should have been. The air crackled with energy, and Korin stumbled backward, confused by the intense pressure overwhelming the area. Siho's laughter echoed in the burning forest as Korin struggled to process the sudden shift in strength. The eerie sensation left Korin rattled, questioning what exactly Siho had become, and if he could stop him in time. Korin called out to the unseen presence, demanding whoever was lurking in the forest to reveal themselves. The silence was shattered as small forest creatures leaped from the bushes, their eyes fixated on Korin. Realizing too late, Korin cursed under his breath, recognizing the creatures were drawn by the mushrooms he had gathered. In the monster's eyes, Korin appeared coated in the same irresistible powder as their favorite prey. Flailing, Korin fought to keep the creatures at bay, cursing his luck as they swarmed relentlessly toward him. Korin stood over the defeated monsters, his breath steadying as he confirmed Alicia was still alive beneath him. A low growl from the darkness drew his attention, revealing another werewolf emerging from the trees with lethal intent. Korin tightened his grip on his weapon, bracing for the inevitable clash as the werewolf lunged toward him without hesitation. Park Siho watched from afar, frustration flickering in his eyes as he realized the fight had taken an unexpected turn. From the shadows, a new figure appeared, sword drawn, his gaze fixed directly on Siho with an unsettling intensity. Park Siho wiped his blade clean, satisfied with how effortlessly the Odachi cut down the horn rats swarming the forest path. His victory felt hollow as a chilling presence emerged from the shadows, forcing him to raise his guard instinctively. From the mist, Korin stepped forward, his crimson gaze locking onto Siho, carrying an unsettling air of quiet menace. Korin walks silently through the forest, his gaze fixed ahead. Tension lingers as he approaches Park Siho's location. Park Siho turns, surprised to see Korin standing before him. His grip on the sword tightens, eyes narrowing in confusion. Korin studies Siho's reaction, wondering if the man has forgotten the past. The familiar hostility flashes across his mind. Siho's smirk betrays his arrogance. Korin remains calm, knowing the facade won't last long once the blades cross paths. Korin senses the shift in Siho's posture. A fight brews between them, and Korin prepares for the inevitable clash. Siho strikes without hesitation, his blade slicing toward Korin. Korin blocks, the force sending shockwaves up his arm. Korin weaves around Siho's swings, carefully analyzing his movements. Siho's aggression leaves small openings that Korin begins to exploit. Despite Siho's raw power, his technique remains flawed. Korin keeps his distance, waiting for the right moment to counter. Korin acknowledges the danger. Siho's relentless attacks push him back, forcing Korin to rely on precision rather than strength. Siho lunges forward again, but Korin ducks swiftly, feeling the blade whistle just past his ear. Korin sharpens his focus, silencing all distractions. This battle isn't about winning. It's about survival and reclaiming control. Siho's frustration mounts as Korin slips through his defenses. Their clash intensifies, neither backing down from the other. Korin narrows his eyes, fully engaged. He moves seamlessly, pushing Siho closer to his breaking point with each strike. Siho's strikes grow desperate. Korin counters smoothly, slowly closing the gap between them. His patience begins to pay off. Korin lands a heavy strike, forcing Siho to stagger. The balance shifts in Korin's favor as Siho grits his teeth in frustration. Korin swings his blade fiercely, closing the distance between him and Park Siho. His strikes grow sharper with each attack. Siho leaps back, but Korin's relentless pursuit leaves him no time to breathe. The pressure forces Siho to defend desperately. Siho's scream echoes through the forest as Korin's blade grazes him. Korin's resolve hardens, knowing the fight isn't over. Korin watches Siho's expression twist in pain. His grip tightens, aiming to end this battle before Siho regains his strength. Seo struggles to stand as Korin presses forward, raising his blade. The outcome hangs in the balance, but Korin doesn't falter. Blood drips from Seho's wound, staining the ground beneath him. Korin steps closer, keeping his focus sharp and unwavering. Seho's eyes widen in disbelief as he clutches his side. Korin's attack leaves no room for escape, sealing his fate. Korin's blade strikes clean and Seo's body collapses. The weight of victory sinks in, but Korin feels no satisfaction. As Seho's form fades, Korin reflects on the memories of their past life. Regret lingers, but the mission must continue. Korin lowers his weapon, acknowledging that Seo's downfall was inevitable. The past no longer binds him. He steps forward. Korin stands amidst the aftermath, gazing at the remnants of the battle. The world shifts, signaling the end of Seho's influence. Darkness envelops the scene, but Korin remains steady. The game system registers Seo's death, altering the course of events. Korin's player card replaces Seho's, signaling a shift in power. He accepts this new role, prepared to shape the world's fate. The system acknowledges Korin as the new sub-player. His journey begins anew, driven by lessons learned from his past failures. Korin steps into his new role with determination. The path ahead is uncertain, but he knows this time he won't lose. The system announces Korin as the Martial Master's successor, marking his shift into a crucial sub-player role in the world. Korin watches the announcement fade. He ponders the significance of becoming a sub-player, questioning if this unlocks new possibilities. His thoughts are interrupted by a sudden coughing fit. Turning, he spots Alicia Arden, injured and collapsed nearby. Korin rushes to Alicia's side, concern flashing across his face. Her labored breathing signals she's in critical condition. Holding her carefully, Korin checks for wounds. Despite the damage, Alicia forces a weak smile, showing her resilience. Korin assesses her condition, recognizing the symptoms. Alicia's dizziness, lack of smell, and ringing ears hint at poison. His suspicion confirms it. Peacock tree frog poison, known to cause paralysis. Without treatment, she won't survive much longer. Korin inspects a fang embedded in her body. Had the concentration been stronger, Alicia would have already succumbed. Relieved by the lower dosage, Korin shifts focus. He knows detoxification must happen swiftly to prevent the poison's spread. Alicia reacts in pain, but Korin steadies her. Confidently, he reassures her, taking charge of the situation. Korin scans the area for something to help Alicia bite down on, easing the pain while he administers treatment. His eyes settle on a sturdy object. He calmly hands it to Alicia, instructing her to bite firmly. With a steady hand, Korin begins removing the fang. Alicia grips tightly, enduring the intense pain coursing through her. Korin reflects as he works, acknowledging his strange reality. 3 years ago, none of this would have been possible. Despite the uncertainty of time travel, Korin knows one truth. He's returned to change fate, and his path is now clear. Korin watches Alicia stabilize after receiving treatment. Relief washes over him, knowing he saved someone who once died in his past. The forest remains quiet, only the sound of flickering flames filling the air. Korin sits by Alicia as she rests peacefully. Alicia's survival becomes Korin's small victory. In this moment, saving even one person feels like a step toward redemption. The campfire crackles gently, illuminating their small camp in the dark woods. Korin stirs the antidote, ensuring it's properly prepared. As the antidote simmers, Korin reflects on his actions. Even if unnoticed by others, this life feels different than before. Alicia wakes, gazing at Korin with gratitude. Though weak, her eyes reveal newfound trust in the stranger who saved her. Korin brushes off her thanks, focusing on the antidote. Alicia calls him her savior, but Korin shows no reaction. She nervously asks for his name, but Korin deflects. Staying anonymous feels safer. Keeping others at a distance is essential. Korin advises Alicia to rest. As the fire crackles, he watches over her, ensuring she regains strength by morning. He silently vows to protect those around him, knowing his past regrets cannot dictate the second chance he's been given. As Korin sharpens his blade by the fire, he recalls the game's lore. The world's survival once rested in another's hands. The main player's failure left a void, causing the system to reset and forcing Korin into an unexpected new role. Korin accepts his fate. He knows that if no one else will rise to the occasion, he must take the lead. The weight of this responsibility lingers, but Korin is prepared. Failure isn't an option, not when the world hangs in balance. The system recognizes him as the Martial Master's successor, solidifying his new path. Korin's determination hardens as he faces the future. Korin stares at the system screens, denying him access. As a sub-player, he's barred from using key features. Frustration builds as the system's restrictions remind him that his role lacks the privileges of the main player. Despite his position, Korin refuses to rely solely on the system. He understands survival depends on strength outside the interface. The campfire crackles as Korin reflects on his rigorous 3 years of training, honing his skills without system assistance. No longer an ordinary player or bystander, Korin feels the weight of his transformation and the path he must follow. Korin traces runes in the air, channeling power independent of the system's constraints. His personal training now yields tangible results. The runes flare brightly, surrounding him with ancient magic. Korin smiles, reassured by the success of his methods. As the runes circle him, Korin recalls the importance of their power, duty, restraint, and oath, the laws governing this world. These commandments represent more than magic. They embody the strength of individuals who commit fully to their cause. Korin accepts the runes as his foundation. By mastering them, he taps into abilities beyond ordinary players, forging his own path. Korin begins inscribing the 3 commandments onto his body, embedding duty, restraint, and oath into his very being. Pain courses through him as the first rune, duty, sears into his skin. Korin grits his teeth but doesn't waver. The duty rune grants strength in exchange for honoring personal oaths. Even minor tasks like dietary restrictions enhance his power. Though simple in practice, the rune's potential lies in strict adherence. Korin knows that success demands unwavering discipline. Despite the pain, Korin welcomes the rune's power. His commitment to duty marks the beginning of a new chapter in his journey. Korin carves the first commandment, duty, into his flesh. His vow to protect the weak becomes a binding force. The system registers his oath. Korin must aid those in need. His status increases with each completed quest under this rule. Failing to uphold this duty triggers a severe penalty. Korin breathes heavily, aware of the weight this promise carries. Gritting his teeth, Korin moves to the second commandment. Restraint ignites as burning letters etch into his skin. The commandment of restraint bars Korin from perceiving spirits. His body tenses as the rune embeds itself deeper. In this world, spiritual beings shape reality. Ghosts and astral entities influence those who recognize them. Korin's inability to perceive spirits shields him from harm. This commandment limits astral interference but isolates him further. The system enforces the rule. Disobeying results in physical damage, increasing the danger he faces from mortal enemies. Yet this shield offers protection from spiritual foes. Korin accepts the trade-off, recognizing the strategic advantage it grants. As the glow fades, Korin steels himself. The final commandment, oath, looms, its risk far greater than the others. Korin begins inscribing the last commandment. The weight of oath binds him to promises he cannot break. Park Siho once avoided this path, fearing its consequences. Korin now embraces it, determined to surpass his predecessor. Chains of red energy swirl around him. The oath grips his soul, locking him into an unbreakable contract. As Korin stands marked by the 3 commandments, his resolve hardens. He vows to reshape the world with his power. Failure is not an option. Violating the oath guarantees death. Korin accepts the risk, prepared to walk this path alone. Alicia Aiden's eyes flutter open as the bright hospital lights flood her vision. Her last memory is the intense battle. She scans the unfamiliar room, realizing she's no longer in the field. Confusion swirls as she sits up slowly. Pain grips her as she tries to move, a sharp reminder of the injury she sustained during the fight. A nurse steps forward, explaining that she's in Merkaba City Hospital. Alicia's thoughts drift to how she ended up here. She asks about the person who brought her in. The nurse reveals they left shortly after, leaving Alicia uneasy. Despite the discomfort, Alicia requests her belongings, eager to uncover clues about her unknown savior. The nurse returns with her worn bag. Bloodstains along the edges stir unsettling memories from the battlefield. Alicia brushes her fingers over the dried stains, recalling brief flashes of a mysterious figure pulling her to safety. A surge of urgency overtakes her. She calls for the nurse again, sensing there's more she needs to know. Startled by Alicia's tone, the nurse quickly returns to her side, waiting for her to explain. Alicia asks if there's any way to track down the person who saved her, but the nurse offers little information. 3 days later, Merkaba Academy looms over the city, its towering structure marking the day of the entrance ceremony. Korin Locke stands at the academy gates, nervously fidgeting with his bag as he prepares for the ceremony. As Korin searches for his admission documents, his fingers brush against an unfamiliar sealed letter inside his bag. Korin's eyes narrow at the envelope. He doesn't remember packing it, yet it feels strangely intentional, like someone left it there. Korin Locke reflects quietly, realizing how his life, despite struggles, is anchored by the warmth of his family's love. Though he's aware of his shortcomings, Korin knows the importance of the bond he shares with those closest to him. His memories drift to the time when he first possessed this body, feeling distant and unsure of his place. Despite his awkwardness, Korin's family accepted him wholeheartedly, never questioning the subtle shifts in his behavior. This unwavering love allowed Korin to cherish not just his family, but the entire world he now calls home. The bustling station hums with excitement as new students arrive, carriages lining up to transport them to Merkaba Academy. Korin steps out, blending into the crowd, his gaze scanning the towering academy ahead, feeling both anxious and hopeful. A woman greets the new arrivals, guiding them with a calm yet authoritative presence as they gather in the hall. Korin introduces himself awkwardly, drawing a faint smile from the woman who takes notice of his nervous demeanor. She unexpectedly offers him a potato, her light-hearted gesture catching Korin off guard, making him pause in confusion. As the carriages continue to roll in, the Academy's entrance ceremony commences, with Mariette Dunilev addressing the new students. Her poised and graceful introduction hints at the influence she holds, immediately drawing attention and admiration from the crowd. Korin watches closely, sensing that Mariette's role at the Academy carries deeper implications than what meets the eye. The realization sinks in. Mariette Dunilev isn't just a senior student, she's the first ARC's hidden boss. Korin's instincts sharpen as he recalls what lies ahead, knowing Mariette's involvement will shape his future at the Academy. Korin steps off the carriage as Mariette waves him off, wishing him luck as the Academy looms in the distance. Entering Merkaba Academy, Korin glances around the grand hall, his heart racing as he takes in the unfamiliar surroundings. Suddenly glowing patterns form beneath his feet. His eyes widen as the space expansion magic activates around the room. Darkness envelops the hall, pulling the students into a vast void. Korin braces himself as the floor vanishes beneath him. Voices echo around him as instructors remind the students to remain calm, urging them to embrace the Academy's mysterious nature. A voice cuts through the dark void, calm and commanding. Korin shifts his gaze towards a figure emerging from the shadows. Professor Fermac Damon greets the students, introducing himself as the Academy's night faculty instructor with an air of confidence. Korin feels the weight of Fermac's words, sensing the importance of his role in shaping the cadets' futures. As Fermac continues to speak, Korin reflects on the Academy's reputation for battling the evil tribes that plague the world. Fermac's presence reinforces Korin's belief that the challenges ahead won't be simple, but he knows he must push forward. Fermac's gaze sharpens as he begins the assessment, scanning each cadet to evaluate their skills and potential. Korin stands with the others, as his turn approaches, nervous yet determined to prove his worth. A magical display lights up, showing Korin's stats. His aura rank is average, but his mana rank is disappointingly low. Korin sighs internally, recognizing his physical stats are among the weakest, but he clings to hope in other areas. Fermac instructs the students to line up by rank, with Korin trailing behind as he contemplates the long road ahead. Korin stands at the very back of the line, realizing he ranks near the bottom among 400 cadets. Professor Fermac Damon's sharp voice cuts through the crowd, calling out the cadets' lack of battle instinct. A surge of magic activates, pulling the students forward into a simulated battle environment designed to test their skills. Korin watches as the stronger cadets step up, knowing this is his chance to quietly observe and learn. A female instructor steps in, urging them not to dwell on rankings and to focus on improving alongside their peers. The students' ranks begin flashing above them, with the highest cadets standing out. Rank 2 includes notable figures. Among them is Alicia Aiden, standing confidently as her abilities are acknowledged by the instructors. Also listed are elite cadets such as Yuela Velchevris and Dion Warren, known for their combat prowess. A wave of anticipation grows as the display shifts, indicating the presence of a single Saint rank cadet. Korin glances ahead nervously, his gaze landing on the Academy's strongest student, Huaren, the Heavenly Yaksha. Huaren's sharp red eyes and commanding presence dominate the room, leaving other instructors visibly unsettled. One instructor nervously questions the decision to let her participate in regular cadet evaluations. Fermac Damon dismisses their concerns, trusting the Academy's director's judgment in allowing Huaren to remain active. As cadets whisper in awe, the atmosphere grows tense. Huaren's potential is unparalleled, making her a figure to both fear and admire. The director steps forward, signaling the official start of their training, pushing the cadets toward their first joint exercise. Korin approaches a towering case, realizing this is the Academy's infamous weapon selection test, meant to gauge their skills under pressure. A message explains the rules. Students have 30 seconds to choose a weapon that best suits their abilities. Korin glances at the cases in front of him, noting that lower-ranked cadets usually settle for whatever they can grab. He chuckles, recalling that in his previous life he did the same, ending up with a mismatched weapon. As the timer counts down, Korin calmly observes the higher-ranked students making more strategic selections ahead of him. The test escalates as summoned beasts emerge, forcing cadets to engage immediately with their newly chosen weapons. Korin steps forward confidently, activating his weapon slot. His focus sharpens as he recalls past battles. Energy crackles and a radiant spear manifests before him, drawing gasps from nearby students. As Korin grips the spear, memories flood back. This weapon had once saved him countless times in a previous life. With a smirk, Korin prepares to engage, knowing this weapon suits him far better than anything he'd used before. Lifting the spear high, Korin apologizes to the incoming beasts, fully aware of the overwhelming gap in experience. The summoned creatures snarl and charge, but Korin's calm expression remains as his spear glows with lethal intent. In one fluid motion, Korin cuts through the first wave, his precision honed through countless past battles. As the last beast falls, Korin remarks quietly to himself, acknowledging how familiar this situation feels. With a confident smirk, he reflects. This might be a test for the others, but for him, it's just another day. Korin stood calmly, watching the clock. He recalled how weak he once was against even the smallest monsters. Memories of past failures haunted him. This time, however, he was ready. No hesitation, no fear, just resolve. The arena was silent, except for Korin's blade slicing through enemies that once overpowered him with ease. Korin called for the next wave. The familiar rush of adrenaline settled as he braced for the challenge ahead. But nothing came. Korin frowned, glancing around the empty battlefield. Something about this felt off, unnerving. Behind the scenes, system monitors displayed Korin's performance. His efficiency was unnerving to the observers. "This shouldn't be possible," one of them muttered. Korin's skills far exceeded expectations, breaking the system's limits. A glitch appeared. The enemy meant for a higher rank was summoned prematurely. It was a powerful cold lich. Korin stared at the boss, unimpressed. He cracked his knuckles, ready to fight. The system administrator panicked. "There's no way he should face that yet." The observers scrambled to reset the system before Korin's advantage grew. The system fought back. Korin's progress stalled as the summoned boss hovered midair, frozen in place. "Is the system malfunctioning?" an observer questioned. The boss hadn't attacked. Korin waited for it to move. Minutes passed. The spectators exchanged glances, unable to explain the glitch. Korin shrugged, loosening his grip. "It's broken," one admin whispered. But something deeper stirred. Korin's presence was bending the game itself. Korin smirked. Whatever happened next, he was ready to break the system completely and carve his path forward. Korin glanced around, frustrated. The enemies were delayed again. His instincts told him something wasn't right. He muttered under his breath. The battlefield felt too quiet, and Korin's patience started to wear thin. A sudden burst of energy erupted as monsters swarmed toward him, breaking the silence in a violent rush. Korin's blade flashed as he reacted instantly. Explosions tore through the wave of enemies in mere seconds. Observers gasped. The timer showed 7.3 seconds. Korin's efficiency was shattering their expectations entirely. The observers scrambled to adjust the system. Korin's performance felt impossible by standard measures, yet he pressed forward. Another boss was summoned, a frost-covered boar. It growled, stepping onto the field with rage in its eyes. Korin smirked. This was more his speed. His blade hummed as he prepared to take on the fierce creature. The observers froze, watching the boar lunge. In a flash, Korin struck, and the monster crumbled in 3.7 seconds. But there was no time to rest. Another enemy appeared, larger and more dangerous than before. The owlbear descended with a deafening roar. Korin grinned, gripping his blade tighter, ready for the challenge ahead. The creature charged, claws swiping wildly. Korin ducked under the attack, striking fast with calculated precision. Korin's blade tore through feathers and muscle. The owlbear stumbled, roaring in frustration as flames engulfed it. The rune kanaz ignited in Korin's hand, amplifying the fire until the monster vanished in blazing light. Observers stood speechless. Korin wasn't following any predictable path. The system couldn't keep up with his growing power. Observers watched in disbelief as flames roared across the battlefield. Korin wielded rune magic, something rare for his level. Confusion spread among the onlookers. Rune magic wasn't standard for a rank this low. Korin's abilities defied logic. The creature's shriek echoed as Korin's attack struck true. Even if the effect didn't trigger fully, it was enough. Korin leapt back, landing gracefully. The battlefield smoldered as he gauged the damage. The fight was going as planned. If the strike could land, Korin didn't need perfection. He focused on results, knowing it was enough to win. The observers whispered nervously. Korin was no ordinary contender. His strength surpassed what they expected from his supposed rank. They hesitated, unsure how to proceed. Corrin's rapid advancement through the ranks was disrupting their system. One administrator spoke with admiration. "It's been ages since someone made things interesting," he muttered, unable to look away. Corrin prepared for the next test. The arena shimmered, signaling the arrival of an unseen evil spirit. Corrin narrowed his eyes. Although the spirit had been summoned, he couldn't sense its presence at all. The restraint penalty weighed heavily on Corrin. He couldn't detect or interact with ghosts or spirits in this test. Corrin thought carefully, realizing his limits. He suspected this flaw in the system might work to his advantage. Counting silently, Corrin tracked the moments passing by. Time crawled as he waited for confirmation of the spirit's activation. The test ended. Corrin smirked, having anticipated the results. There was nothing left to prove from this battle. Corrin raised his hand calmly. "I give up," he declared, confident that the observers understood what just transpired. Corrin's monster test results appeared on the screen, confirming his overwhelming success. The administrators exchanged stunned glances. One administrator approached, offering a simple nod of approval. Corrin's calm expression revealed he expected nothing less. The observers whispered, questioning how someone like him existed at such a low rank. Corrin walked away unfazed. As Corrin left the arena, others watched, curious about his skills and quiet confidence in battle. In the courtyard, curious players gathered, asking Corrin about his rank. He casually mentioned third rank, leaving them speechless. Jaeger Hinchpeter, an infamous higher-ranked player, watched Corrin closely. Memories of past conflicts stirred in his mind. Jaeger recalled when Corrin fought against others without hesitation, making enemies early in his journey. Corrin had a reputation for clashing with others, but his ability to survive painted him as unpredictable. Jaeger sneered. Corrin's calm demeanor reminded him of past encounters, making Jaeger uneasy. Players whispered about Corrin, recalling rumors that even powerful figures like Park Sion once clashed with him. Corrin scanned the courtyard, spotting familiar faces from his past life. His memories of betrayal resurfaced. One individual, Lark, stood out. Corrin remembered his arrogance and how it led to Lark's downfall in the previous timeline. Despite knowing Lark's fate, Corrin said nothing. He knew the cycle of arrogance wouldn't end easily. As Lark spoke confidently to others, Corrin's gaze shifted to the stage where a new announcement began. The Academy's headmaster addressed the students, preparing them for the next phase of their training, oblivious to Corrin's quiet resolve. The headmaster concluded the assembly, leaving the courtyard buzzing with excitement about the new rankings. Corrin remained focused, scanning the crowd. Jaeger's name echoed through the courtyard, marking him as the new 5th-ranked knight. Corrin took note, but stayed silent. Jaeger's gaze met Corrin's. A moment of curiosity crossed his face, but he said nothing. Jaeger approached another player, questioning his rank casually. The relaxed atmosphere masked the competitive undercurrents. Corrin watched from a distance, knowing Jaeger's journey was far from smooth in the past timeline. Jaeger greeted Corrin directly, his casual energy making the conversation lighthearted. Corrin responded, maintaining a neutral but observant tone. Jaeger's tattoos caught Corrin's attention. Each one held a deeper meaning, tied to events Corrin remembered from before. Jaeger proudly explained the origins of his tattoos, unaware Corrin already knew the story through past experience. Corrin's knowledge surprised Jaeger, who marveled at how much Corrin seemed to understand about his background. Corrin kept his explanations vague, aware that his insight came from memories Jaeger couldn't possibly know in this life. In Corrin's past life, Jaeger's mother visited the academy, explaining the significance of his tattoos and their deeper meaning. Her words reflected the care she held for her son, which left a lasting impression on Corrin even now. Jaeger proudly displayed the tattoos, unaware of how much they meant to his mother. Corrin introduced himself to Jaeger's group, drawing subtle comparisons to his past encounters with them. Lark, another familiar face from Corrin's past, quietly joined the conversation, clearly uncomfortable in Jaeger's shadow. Lark watched Corrin closely, noticing how effortlessly he handled the situation. His calm demeanor stood out even among strong competitors. A soft smile crossed Lark's face. Corrin seemed trustworthy, someone who acted with confidence but without arrogance or deception. Corrin's lighthearted attitude left a positive impression. Lark quietly took note, marking Corrin as someone worth remembering in the future. Lark's unique skill, Memorize, was known for tracking details others overlooked. Corrin was already aware of its hidden potential. Corrin's eyes gleamed as he held the skill book. This was his prize, something that would shape his path forward. The towering entrance to Mehran Academy stands as a symbol of opportunity, offering facilities that shape future warriors without charge. Life within the academy is designed to ease burdens. Affordable meals and free dorms allow students to focus on honing skills. Among the most prized amenities is the state-of-the-art training room, essential for survival in the dangerous world outside. Korin moves swiftly across the training ground, each strike sharpening instincts he cannot afford to lose. He knows that refining his skills here could mean surviving unexpected battles he may face beyond the academy walls. Students discuss training methods, curious about the effectiveness of various techniques and eager for any advantage in combat. Korin listens quietly, aware that experience trumps theory. He recalls past battles that shaped his understanding of true strength. Nearby, a new student is overwhelmed, struggling to maintain control as his spirit body falters. Korin wonders if he had once looked the same, doubting his abilities while striving to master them. An instructor approaches, sensing Korin's resolve. His presence alone demands respect from even the most inexperienced students. The instructor's gaze lingers on Korin, prompting quiet reflection. Why is this veteran paying attention to someone like him? Suspicion rises as Korin questions whether the instructor noticed something unusual during his entrance exam. The instructor, however, simply smiles, impressed by Korin's determination to face the trials ahead. To Korin's surprise, the man hands him a stack of meal tickets, an unexpected reward for showing confidence. As the instructor laughs heartily, Korin watches in disbelief, unsure if fortune or mischief is guiding his path forward. Korin steadies his breathing as the training session resumes, aware that the intensity will only increase from here. A surge of energy manifests around him, crackling with fierce intent as he presses forward with sharpened focus. His movements blur as he dodges, flipping mid-air while countering the relentless assault of the training constructs. Despite his effort, the force knocks Korin back, his body struggling to keep pace with the overwhelming power unleashed. Exhausted but determined, he rises again, suppressing frustration as he silently acknowledges the long road ahead. Collapsing to his knees, Korin feels the weight of fatigue sinking in, his breath shallow and limbs trembling. A familiar voice calls out, offering a reminder that growth often comes from struggle rather than immediate success. Korin listens, grateful yet conflicted, knowing that time is not a luxury he can afford to squander. As water is passed to him, he contemplates the harsh reality that another failure may leave no future attempts. His grip tightens around the cup, quietly resolving that no matter how exhausting, he must push forward without hesitation. Memories resurface of a time when hope existed, when fighting alongside others brought victories that seemed unreachable alone. The thought lingers. Korin once relied on someone else, but those days have long passed, forcing him to stand alone. He accepts the drink with a quiet nod, recognizing the unspoken encouragement behind the small gesture. The resolve hardens within him. There can be no distractions, no weakness. His goal is to grow stronger than anyone else. As energy forms once more, Korin prepares to face the trials ahead, determined to reshape his fate by force. Korin channels his energy, memories flashing through his mind, each step a reminder of the long journey that shaped him. His focus sharpens, recreating forms from the past. The spirits of his former selves guide his movements with precision. As his spear extends, Korin pushes beyond his limits, determined to carve a path forward no matter the cost. Time slows, every strike representing not just skill, but the weight of years spent in relentless pursuit of strength. His past efforts converge, creating a force that cannot be denied. Korin knows his sacrifices will not be in vain. With a fierce thrust, Korin releases his spear, sending it hurtling through the air with unmatched precision and power. Observers watch in silence, expecting failure, only to realize that his action carries an intent far beyond their assumptions. The spear glows with intensity, leaving no doubt about his skill as it slices through the target with ease. Surprise flickers across the faces of those watching. Korin had not given up, but had unleashed something greater. Even in disbelief, admiration follows, as his mastery over the technique reveals the depths of his growth and resilience. The spear's energy explodes upon impact, shattering barriers that once seemed impenetrable, leaving behind a trail of victory. Korin's spirit body stabilizes, glowing faintly as the connection between his physical and ethereal forms strengthens. Onlookers stand captivated, unable to ignore the undeniable shift that has occurred within the training hall. In that moment, Korin understands the path ahead. Strength alone is not enough. He must transcend limitations. As his aura settles, a quiet resolve fills him. This is just the beginning of the battles he must face. Korin regains his footing after the clash, determined to stay conscious despite the strain that lingers in his body. His spear drops beside him, a reminder that his physical form still struggles to match the demands of the academy. As the training session ends, Korin silently vows to strengthen himself further. This is only the beginning of his path. The next day, the academy hums with life as students gather, eager to sharpen their skills and forge new connections. Korin watches the crowd, quietly reflecting on how far he's come and how much further he must go to survive. Determined to grow without relying on external aids, Corrin focuses on mastering techniques drawn from ancient commandments. A chance encounter leads him to Lark, a dedicated student engrossed in a grimoire detailing forgotten lessons of the past. Lark's commitment intrigues Corrin, and he sees an opportunity. Perhaps learning through shared knowledge will accelerate his progress. With a hesitant smile, Corrin joins Lark, ready to dive into the forgotten mysteries hidden within the Academy's tomes. As they flip through the pages, Corrin senses the weight of the knowledge before him. A path forward slowly begins to form. The grimoire's pages glow faintly, revealing forgotten spells and techniques lost to time, preserved only by the Academy's vast archives. Corrin marvels at the grimoire's potential, realizing the immense power sealed within the simple act of reading. However, Lark's blunt explanation shatters the illusion. The library exists not to share knowledge, but to conceal dangerous truths. They navigate the towering shelves, Lark hinting at forbidden sections holding the Academy's darkest secrets. Corrin follows in silence, recognizing that this partnership may uncover more than just skills. It could change everything he believes. Corrin leaned back casually, recalling the countless spells stored in his mind, each one a tool, though difficult to master. He knew having numerous spells didn't guarantee success. Without high mana or experience, even the best theories fell short. Lark quietly reflected, understanding that raw potential often crumbled without the strength to back it up. But grimoires changed everything. With the right one, even a novice could unleash incredible power far beyond their level. Corrin's gaze shifted as something clicked. A hidden mechanism revealed a concealed path, leaving Lark stunned by the discovery. Corrin stepped into the hidden passage, the narrow path stretching into shadows ahead. Lark hesitated, unsure about what lay beyond. "We stick together," Corrin insisted, sensing the unsettling atmosphere deepening as they moved further into the mysterious corridor. The walls seemed to pulse faintly, and Corrin couldn't shake the feeling that something, or someone, was watching them closely. Corrin paused. "Lark, you're carrying your protection charm, right?" His voice lowered, and his eyes scanned the narrowing path ahead. Lark fumbled with his grimoire nervously, gripping it tightly as an ominous shadow flickered just beyond their view. Without warning, dark energy erupted around Corrin. His aura flared, symbols glowing as he prepared for whatever lay in wait. Corrin stands in the dim hallway, scanning the area. He came to assist Lark, but aims to complete his quest. The task requires capturing evil spirits hidden in the dungeon. Each spirit holds a key to rare, powerful rewards. He narrows his eyes, sensing something off. The atmosphere grows heavier. Danger lurks beyond the ordinary threats here. Corrin spots Sabancia Duke, an ominous figure wrapped in malevolent energy, standing in his way with piercing red eyes. This wasn't supposed to happen. Sabancia Duke's presence makes the quest nearly impossible for Corrin to finish alone. Sabancia Duke unleashes dark energy, swirling orbs crackling with magic. Corrin braces himself, knowing he must face this spirit. Dodging the attacks, Corrin realizes his knowledge of Sihu's strategies won't help here. Sabancia fights differently than he expected. The assault continues relentlessly. Corrin barely manages to evade, understanding this foe is beyond standard enemies in the dungeon. Despite the danger, Corrin doesn't back down. He resolves to finish what he started, even if it pushes him to the brink. The quest objective flickers in his interface, reminding him failure isn't an option. Corrin steadies himself, ready for the next attack. The battle intensifies, but Sabancia suddenly halts. A strange shift occurs, and Corrin senses a hidden element influencing the fight. He recalls the concept of factors in this world, events and figures that shape the course of quests unpredictably. This dungeon wasn't ordinary. Sabancia Duke wasn't just a powerful spirit, but a catalyst for deeper, hidden dangers ahead. The vision of Sabancia's past flickers. Betrayal, awakening as a vampire, and his merciless vengeance echo through the chamber. Corrin steels himself. To win, he must understand the spirit's pain and resolve to fight not just for survival, but redemption. Corrin approaches the dark castle with soldiers. His purpose isn't just exploration. Something far more dangerous waits inside. His goal is to acquire a legendary item hidden behind sealed doors, crucial for survival in future encounters. As he advances, Sabancia Duke lets out a powerful, agonized scream, the air distorting with immense energy. Corrin stands calm, watching the spirit's rage unfold. The quest's complexity increases, but he anticipated such difficulties. Reflecting on the unfolding events, Corrin's eyes narrow. This wasn't just a quest. This was the start of something larger. Corrin deftly maneuvers as Sabancia Duke attacks, countering the ferocious spirit's raw power with calculated strikes. Lark beside him struggles to keep up. His stats are weak, and Corrin's presence is the only thing ensuring survival. Despite their disadvantages, Corrin presses forward. His foresight lets him avoid fatal missteps that would ruin their mission. Defeating Sabantia isn't just about power. It's about exploiting weaknesses left by years of confinement. Corrin understands this perfectly. The Duke collapses, fading slowly, leaving behind valuable items. Corrin collects them, knowing they'll soon be essential. As Corrin sits beside the weakened Sabantia Duke, he chooses to speak, recounting stories from the world outside the castle. He tells of the Duke's daughter who survived, grew strong, and explored distant lands despite hardships. Sabantia listens quietly, his anger dissipating. Corrin knows understanding the spirit's past is key to his success. Corrin reflects on his actions. Unlike Sihu, he seeks peace through empathy, not bloodshed. His approach shapes his path. Corrin's words linger. His choices in this world don't mirror Sihu's. He pursues victory not through dominance, but through connection. Lark stands quietly, his expression softening. He feels a need to offer peace to the tormented spirit before them. Apologizing for his earlier brashness, Lark bows slightly. Corrin responds casually, unbothered by the sudden charge from before. Corrin senses Lark's sincerity, but shifts focus to the matter at hand. The moment to ask deeper questions finally arrives. Before ascending, Sabantia Duke shared valuable insights, sparking Corrin's curiosity about the hidden workings of this world. As a reward, Corrin gains rare items, soul dust and a grimoire, powerful relics with unique, untapped potential. Corrin's interface lights up. A new ability unlocks, persistent warrior's regeneration, signaling greater resilience in future battles. Lark eyes the new grimoire Corrin holds, intrigued by its design and the faint energy resonating from its cover. Corrin examines the grimoire but isn't sure of its effects. Without sustaining injuries, its power remains a mystery for now. As the tension lifts, Corrin feels a brief pang of fatigue. The intensity of the dungeon slowly weighs on him. Lark notices Corrin's exhaustion and questions whether an evil spirit's energy might have seeped into him during the battle. Corrin downplays his discomfort, but secretly wonders if Lark's observation holds some truth. The dungeon's energy lingers unnaturally. Lark hands Corrin the grimoire, insisting he take it. Corrin accepts, recognizing Lark's gesture as a sign of trust. The grimoire hums faintly in Corrin's hands. It feels heavier than expected, brimming with untold power waiting to be unlocked. Corrin explains his reasons for choosing Lark. Hard work and perseverance deserve recognition, even in a world filled with danger. Reflecting on the rewards, Corrin prepares to level up, knowing the path ahead will test him far beyond the dungeon walls. Corrin gains Commandment's duty, boosting his strength and confirming his growth. The dungeon's lingering effects remain, strengthening him further. His stat points increase, enhancing his abilities significantly. Each choice made in the dungeon reflects in his rapid progression. Corrin unlocks the stamina training room. He senses its importance but decides to save it for later. A lively training area greets him. Mariette and others cheer, adding lightheartedness to the otherwise tense atmosphere. Mariette encourages him with a warm smile, confident that his effort will continue yielding results in unexpected ways. Mariette questions why Corrin keeps pushing himself, suggesting he's already proven capable. Corrin shrugs off the comment. The surrounding trainees observe his abilities closely. His rapid progress sparks interest and admiration among the group. Betting starts among the trainees. Some place wagers on Corrin's success, eager to see how far he'll go. Corrin takes the challenge to heart, stepping forward with focused intent. Testing new abilities feels like the best next move. He activates Ominous Serpent, unleashing a wave of energy. The room hums with power, drawing everyone's attention. Corrin executes the skill with precision. The results surpass his expectations, leaving even him surprised by the force he summoned. Mariette watches closely, recognizing the growth he's undergone. Corrin wonders how much stronger he's become in such little time. Trainees exchange glances, impressed by the overwhelming display. Corrin's abilities are quickly gaining recognition. Mariette teases him, hinting that he might be outgrowing the rest. Corrin accepts the compliment with a quiet nod. Despite the progress, Corrin knows more challenges await. He resolves to continue training, aware this is just the beginning. Mariette hands Corrin his share of the dungeon's rewards. He looks confused, unsure why he's receiving anything extra. Mariette insists, explaining his help boosted their success significantly. Corrin reluctantly accepts, still puzzled by the gesture. She jokes, suggesting no champion should refuse money. Corrin can't help but laugh at the absurdity of it all. The lighthearted moment offers a brief respite from the dungeon's harshness. Corrin's guard lowers slightly as laughter fills the room. Mariette's intelligence and quick thinking continue to impress him. Corrin silently resolves to trust her instincts, moving forward. Later that night, Korin reflects under the moonlight. His training has advanced, but there's still much left to master. He recalls his past life, where endless battles led him to the fifth step of enlightenment, yet not the final. Despite the progress, rune magic remains a challenge. Even now, Korin struggles with the immense mana cost required. He attempts to activate Hagalaz, but the rune fizzles out. His mana reserves run dry faster than anticipated. Korin sighs, acknowledging the same limitation he faced in his previous life. Yet, hope lingers. This time, he'll find a solution. As Korin walks through the academy halls, a faint voice calls out to him from the shadows, catching him off guard. He stops, turning toward the source. Despite his training, Korin senses an overwhelming presence, something far beyond his current level. The voice belongs to Huar Yun, a figure of legend feared even by the strongest players in his past life. Huar Yun, shrouded in darkness, calmly reads a grimoire. Korin wonders why someone of her caliber lingers at the academy. He watches quietly, knowing that if his goals clash with hers, she could be the deadliest obstacle he's ever faced. Korin walks away cautiously, avoiding Huar Yun's gaze. He knows engaging with her could unravel things beyond his control right now. His instincts tell him she's dangerous. Korin keeps his distance, choosing to quietly observe her movements from afar. Huar Yun's eyes lock onto him. Korin stiffens. Her presence alone weighs heavily, confirming she senses more than he expected. She speaks cryptically, suggesting they share a hidden bond. Korin realizes she might know the truth about his reincarnation. A chill runs down Korin's spine. Huar Yun's piercing words leave him questioning how much she understands his presence in this world.